The Nashville Predators beat the Dallas Stars on the road without Roman Josi or Justus Saros. Sure.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this Friday, dear God, the Preds got a win episode, shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders, and of course, welcoming any first-time listeners as well. We love talking Nashville Predators hockey with you all. I am Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, you know I have a couple of partners in crime.
You do. Well, now you just have one. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Yes. And Minka, she's human resources. She's here. She's upper management to keep us in line.
She's everything. What would we do without her?
It would not be pretty, friends. Emma, speaking of pretty, this is going to be the most fun episode we've done in 84 years because the Nashville Predators won last night. And it was not just any win. This was a 60-minute strong performance on the road with a 4-1 victory over Central Division rival Dallas Stars. Friends, we are going to talk about who stepped up in this game, what the keys were to getting a very unexpected win, and we're going to talk about whether Preds fans should start believing that this team has turned a corner, or is this fool's gold? Before we dive into all of that, we do want to let you know today's episode is sponsored by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Holy cannoli, Emma Lingen. We finally get to do a fun episode where we talk about a Nashville Predators win. And look, if you had asked me what this game was going to turn out like, I don't know that I would have said, the win episode we're going to get to record, it's going to be over the Dallas Stars, and it's going to be not one of those like fluky, oh, okay, somehow Dallas didn't show up and the Predators snuck their way to a victory. This was like a legit Nashville Predators performance over a legit Dallas Stars performance last night.
Yeah, I mean, especially I would say in the first period, they came out strong, and I was a little nervous because it's like, all right, we've seen this before. We know how this story ends. But then they just came out and the floodgates opened in the second period. And I think that for the majority of that game, Nashville was the better team. It wasn't like they got some lucky bounces or anything like that. But I mean, they outplayed Dallas, and they were putting a ton of pressure around their net, pressuring Jake Ottinger, and really just looked really solid and connected. And, it's almost like I kind of wonder if it's like, I brought this up earlier in the week, but the Austin Matthews effect,
yes.
Like, is it the star goes down and then everybody rallies around to chip in? And that's kind of what happened, I think, with Roman Josi out of the lineup. But, we talked about yesterday, this team needs a hero. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Brady Shea? Someone needs to step up. And it's like, everyone stepped up. And it was really, really good to see.
Yeah, that leads perfectly into my one word to describe the game here. Of course, if you're new at Locked On Predators, when we do a game recap, we always describe the game in one word. We don't really stick to one word because we're the boss of us. My one word is all rise, which is what you hear when a judge walks into a courtroom. And it's a way to kind of show respect for the judge. It's a way to show respect for the proceedings. Nashville was without Roman Josi. And that really felt a little bit going into this game like, oh, this is going to be the nail in the coffin. Like Nashville was going to struggle to beat Dallas. And then you take Roman Josi out of the equation. What could possibly go well enough for this Predators team. But this entire team rose up to the challenge. Now, they did say on the broadcast, and to be a fly on this wall, that Ryan O'Reilly addressed the locker room before the game. Now, I don't know what he said, but if it was anything at all like what he said in the locker room during the playoffs that we got to see on the Amazon Prime special, we can't repeat it here because just there's a lot of beep, 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 beep. But I would have run through a brick wall when I watched that Amazon Prime special and saw that very little clip of Ryan O'Reilly talk to the locker room. I'm like, I will run through a brick wall with you, Ryan O'Reilly. Whatever he said worked. And it didn't just work for the others. It worked for Ryan O'Reilly. Like this again, and we're going to get into this. This was a game with a lot of heroes. If you had to describe this game in one word, Emma, how would you summarize this 4-1 win over Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, like, you kind of took mine, so now I'm thinking.
Right.
I wasn't gonna say all rise, that was yours, but I mean it was kind of like I guess I'll just say factor. It was the X factor, not just factor being Ryan O'Reilly, and he obviously came in, scored 2 goals, kind of gave this team a shot in the arm coming back into the lineup after missing the last 3 games with an injury. But I think that, like you said, it was the leadership and the togetherness and the willingness to work together that was really the factor here. Because again, it hasn't been a skill problem with this team. It's been, the intangibles. And so we saw a little bit more of that last night.
Yeah. We, of course, always reach out to our Locked On Predators Insiders community. Great group of folks. We live and die together in the Insiders community and ask for their one word. Lee's one word. Bonus points, Lee. It was one word: awakening. It felt like this was the team we hoped it would be this season. Corey's one word. This is very funny. We got several of these. Corey's one word was, well, it seems like cheating to pick sure, because that was Emma's one word a while ago. Like, who knows what you're going to get? Sure. So Corey is going to go with enough is enough. That group was not going to be denied. Another insider said shocking in a good way. Henry's one word was ketchup. They don't have to find the ketchup anymore. That team tells you where the ketchup goes and you put it there because they are your daddy. And it was like, yes. It was it was not just a win. And look, Nashville has been on this franchise tying 8-game losing streak. They were desperate for a win. And I think, we've said in a couple of these earlier games, like, it doesn't have to be a pretty win. It doesn't even have to be a regulation win. It doesn't have to be a man were they the better team win. They just needed a win. But this was a regulation win that this team earned over a team like, you talk about Dallas. Dallas has, even when Nashville scored 3 goals in that second period, Dallas has that bounce back thing. Like, they don't take a punch and stagger. Dallas is a team this season where, okay, you punch them, they're going to counter punch. And they're just going to turn around and bring it back. They don't stagger. And Nashville had to withstand that. And that's a tough skill set for a team that has lacked confidence and lacked success. So there was so much to love about this win. And it was funny, just prepping for this podcast. It's like, okay, well, what do we want to focus on? Well, you can't just focus on Ryan O'Reilly because, man, there's more to talk about. And you can't just focus on, oh my gosh, they scored 4 goals. Who even knew Frosties were still made? And because you've got to talk about the fact that this defense stepped up. But, you can't just talk about how great the defense did because, friends, we still have to talk about goaltending with Justus Annunen. So there is a lot that we're going to get to breaking down this game. We're going to talk about the X factors in this game that led to what is probably the most complete win for the Nashville Predators so far this season. And we're also going to talk about a very interesting in-game line change Andrew Brunette made that I think may prove to be one of his better coaching decisions of the season so far. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. Friends, if you love sports, you are going to love Prize Picks. It's the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey or football or any of your other favorite sports, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. Here is why you need to get started with Prize Picks today. You can win up to 200 times your money on Prize Picks. You're also going to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. There is no need to win. That $50 is guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers fun weekly promotions where select player projections could be discounted up to 25% off. So download the Prize Picks app today and use our code Locked On NHL, and you're going to get that $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. $50 instantly. No need to win that first $5 lineup to get that award. So check out all the action at Prize Picks. Run your game. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It is America's #1 sportsbook because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it is all in one place. So if you are watching a game and you get a hunch about something, you can check out the latest stats. You can go and view live play-by-play and so much more, and it's all on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Emma, we just touched briefly on Ryan O'Reilly's performance. 2 goals back in the lineup. He has been listed week to week with a lower body injury. If you want to talk about a player who is going to gnaw his own foot off to get out of a bear trap like a wolf, my friends, that's Ryan O'Reilly. And not only did he get back in the lineup, he was just such a difference maker for this team. And you love to see it, especially because you know how Emma and I worry about him and his post-game loss sports psychology problem.
I'm sure he still found a way to self-criticize after last night. If anyone could, it's him.
If anyone could, it is Ryan O'Reilly. Just really great. Interestingly, slightly horrifyingly, Ryan O'Reilly had a 3-point game. That's the first 3-point game for any player on the Nashville Predators roster so far this season. But look, we're looking at what is, not what was today. Don't ruin our joy. What else jumped out at you, Emma, as sort of being something that took this game and really helped Nashville get the win, earn the win, not just find a way to win, but really earn this win?
Well, I think a few things. I think, to go back to last year's buzzword of relentless. I mean, they really did look relentless on the puck most of the night. You know, they were staying on it. They were certain players even who maybe had been a little bit invisible recently really stepped up. I mean, Tommy Novak was a guy who looked really, really strong. I mean, he was actually yes, obviously he showed up on the score sheet. He had the second goal, but I think that he was really, he was really driving play. He was very noticeable. He was staying with the puck. He was fending off defenders. He was creating space. He was, moving the puck around and really, really noticeable there. And so that was really positive to see. I would say also, there were a few moments where they kind of let their foot off the gas, maybe a little bit. And in those moments, though, I think Justus Annunen was fantastic in goal. 35 saves, I believe, because Dallas did outshoot Nashville and, put a lot of pressure on them in the third period too. And I think that, they did pull Jake Ottinger for the extra attacker, I think about 4 minutes left in the game. And obviously Nashville got an empty net goal out of it. But with that extra attacker, they were really putting on the pressure in front of Nashville's net. in general, I think in those few moments where it looked like maybe there were some defensive lapses by Nashville, Annunen really stepped up and saved their bacon a couple times. And I think too, just going back to the relentless thing, just like relentless, resilient. I mean, there were 2 goals that got taken off.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I kind of jokingly posted on Twitter last night that the 3 stars of the game were Ryan O'Reilly, Justus Annunen, and the Dallas Stars video coach, Patrick Dolan. So I think that,
Thanks, Patrick.
hats off though, because he was doing his job, and there was to get 1 challenge, much less 2 in a game is an accomplishment. But I think,
and he wasn't wrong. I mean, we don't like him for this, but he wasn't wrong.
No, I mean, gotta learn the rules of the game sometime. Adam Wilsby, don't let your feet cross the line.
He tried so hard. You could tell he was like, if I stretch my back leg any further, this is going to be a groin pull. He tried so hard.
He definitely tried. But all of that being said, to have that happen once, much less twice, is the kind of thing that really normally you would expect would take the wind out of the sails for this team that tends not to respond well to adversity or to anything like that. And so I think that was really good to see, is that they just kept going at it. And it was Adam Wilsby. It would have been his first NHL goal, obviously called back after the offside challenge. It was offside.
It was.
But after that, you see the game is still scoreless. And then he was the one who kind of got the play going for the next goal for O'Reilly to punch it in. And that's where you get kind of the relentless play. It's like, don't give up on the play. And you really just kind of saw them all working together. And it was just really, really, it was good to see. But there was, like I said, few X factors. It was really, everybody. And then when everybody wasn't clicking, then it was Justus Annunen.
Yes.
And it was just a complete team effort, I felt like.
Yeah. It's so funny. I said on yesterday's show, with Roman Josi out of the lineup, you're not going to get offense from these other people coming in. And then it was like Adam Wilsby and Mr. Blankenberg were like, hold my beer. Now, of course, neither one of their goals counted. But like you said, they were in on making some things happen. I think defensively, you look at Blankenberg, you look at Wilsby, you look at Kevin Gravel. That's his first NHL game since the 2022-23 season. You look at Mark Del Gaizo, who did not necessarily show up on the scorecard, but don't you bench him for another 5 games. Do you understand me? Because those 4 guys came in, and you had Luke Shen and you had Brady Shea as the veterans there, really kind of being the backbone defensively against a Dallas team with just an obscene amount of offensive weapons. And those 4 guys came in and just absolutely shut it down. So, again, you're like, wow, look at all the offense we scored. Oh my gosh, wait, look at the defense and how well it held. And then we come back to Justus Annunen. And look, people, I know that there is a lot of angst over losing Yaroslav Askarov. We love Yaroslav Askarov. And I know we've only seen Justus Annunen in 2 games, and that's a very small sample size. But what we have seen in that small sample size has to make you go, oh, okay. I loved how calm he was in net. If you look at the heat maps from last night's game, and in the heat maps, what they do is they show by color where volume of shots come from. And in this heat map, red means holy crap. And the red for the Dallas Stars right in front of Justus Annunen, and yet he only allowed 1 goal. Like, this is a guy who was dialed in. The moment was not too big for him. UC Saros looked like he just needed a rest. He has just been such a workhorse. I don't think Calgary was his best game. And it was one of those ones where you see Justus Annunen is starting in, and I think people on a cellular level were like, yeah, they're not going to try to win this one. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how to say hold my beer and finish, but that's what Justus Annunen had to say about that. Hold my beer in finish. So, yeah, I think there was a lot. The other thing that I want to say And I know this may go over like a fart in church, but the other thing I want to say is for everybody who is like, this head coach, his system doesn't work and he's not coaching the players he has. And what you saw last night, that's Andrew Brunette's system. You saw the team execute the system. Now, is it difficult to do? Yes. Can they replicate that? We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But that is playing Andrew Brunette's system. Now, he has made some adjustments to it. He has said, look, I've had to go in and I've simplified because it wasn't catching on. But that is a team that's executing what Andrew Brunette has been trying to get them to do. They played with speed. They played a quick transition game. I think you saw them be aggressive. You saw relentlessness. My favorite thing about Tommy Novak's goal was not the goal. It was what he did before the goal. If you go back and watch the highlights, watch where he was on the ice. It was everywhere. Watch what he did while he was on the ice. It was chase the puck down and take a hit. And then he scores the goal. Like, you're seeing this team do the things that Andrew Brunette has harped on. You know, will they be able to replicate that, friends? That is the big question. And we're going to talk about whether this is fool's gold or whether this could be the start of something else. And we're going to preview that Colorado game Saturday night. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Indeed. Just like your favorite sports team, we are all driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and let them know you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Again, that's Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Emma, we have a saying in our family, and it goes like this: even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes. The question after such a great performance by the Nashville Predators is this the blind squirrel finding a nut sometimes, or is this something that might be a sign of the Predators starting to put it together? And there's a lot of positives. You've got two great games from Jonathan Marchessault, who is a player you have got to get going. You like that line of Stamkos, Marchessault, and Forsberg. You know, you see them building chemistry. You know, you've got Tommy Novak goals in 2 back-to-back games. You've got the defense playing really, really well. How do you feel about how much we can take away from this 4-1 win over Dallas?
Well, I think that you can't really, you can't look at it in a vacuum. So it's, I would, I think first you have to look at, Minka's got a lot to say. I don't know if you hear
She's
this.
Like, yes, she can look at it in a vacuum.
She's like, yes, queen, pop off. Thank you, sister. Okay. So anyway, I think that, when you're talking about, is this fool's gold or is it time to, is it, hi, hello.
She heard me say squirrel and she's like, let me at them.
She's like, let me at it. Yes. Okay. So now let me get back to this. So I think that the time, again, time will tell if this is fool's gold or not. But I also think that you need to look at it, first of all, in the context of the last game against the Calgary Flames, that Nashville did look better I mean, they looked really connected. Obviously, it wasn't quite there yet. They still gave up the lead 3 times and they lost. And Minka's still really upset about it. I don't know if you can hear it.
She's not moved on.
No, she hasn't. She's still not okay. But I think after that, you look at it, them like really putting it together in the Dallas game. And they were able to do it with the additions of with Ryan O'Reilly and Gus Nyquist back in the lineup, but without Roman Josi. And so you could tell they had a little bit of time to prepare. And so that was better. But then I think, so you look at it as kind of a collective, as like they started building towards this. They started with the Calgary game and they're getting there. But I think you also have to look at it in the context of last year and how long it took this team to put it together. And again, I know I keep harping on this, but again, we've seen this before. We've been here before. Now, it didn't feel quite this bad last year because there weren't as many expectations, and B, on a related note, they didn't have the same personnel that they have this year. So it didn't feel as bad, and it wasn't as bad. I mean, they didn't lose 8 in a row, but it took them a while. Like, again, people have selective memory. Like, they really did not get it together until the second half of the season. And now, ironically, the sort of launch pad for them last year was I said this last night. I was like, Nashville has the chance to do the funniest thing ever and beat Dallas 9-2. They didn't. They did half of that, though. 4-1, basically half. And so, yeah, you know what that means. 18-game point streak. Here we come. No,
buckle up.
I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think it's a nice little full circle moment. And I do think that with all of those extenuating factors, looking at last season and what we know about the Predators under Andrew Brunette, what we know about his system, and looking at the progress we saw in the Calgary game that led to this Dallas game, I do think that this is this team starting to put it together because you're seeing consistency now. And it's not perfect. There's still some areas that need to be improved. But again, none of that is going to happen overnight. And so I really am encouraged by this. Again, I'm not saying 18-game point streak, but I think that this team needs to, it's a confidence thing, right? Like they're going to need to start stringing. They're going to need to start stringing some wins together. But I think that this is a really good start. Just like, I never think that anyone should overreact to a loss. I'd say the same about a win. Like, it was great. It was really good. Let's celebrate it. But now let's go get some more.
Right. One of the things that is encouraging to me as we look ahead to we've got Colorado on Saturday. This is a tough schedule getting through till Christmas. But one of the things that is encouraging to me is I think that this team has stumbled upon some chemistry, and that's been an issue. I think with that Marchessault, Forsberg, Stamkos line with Stammer centering them, we are seeing some real good chemistry there. I love the Novak Jankowski Evangelista line. I think those are players that we have desperately needed to get going. You're seeing that. Here is a change Andrew Brunette made in game. And we have not been fans of the in-game line changes this whole season necessarily. Zachary Leroux bumped up to the second line to play with Gus Nyquist and Ryan O'Reilly. And friends, this is something to keep your eye on. Look, Zachary Leroux looks a lot like your fourth line identity player. He has such a high offensive ceiling and just a really high offensive skill set that while that's kind of been a role he's played, there is more there. He did not have a great game against Calgary. But he came into this game, and at one point, Andrew Brunette bumped him up to play with Nyquist and Ryan O'Reilly. And I love that combination. And I will be very curious to see what that looks like in Colorado as well, because you have, this feisty Zach Leroux hunting pucks, chasing pucks, but he also has that high offensive upside. He really has a very high hockey IQ. He can play with those guys. And I like that. So I think that there are things that are happening that could be solutions. We'll see how that turns out. But I loved that, Emma. I was here for that.
I was too. And yeah, I'm not usually a fan of the in-game line changes, but we also did see that out of necessity a little bit, scary moment there in the first period with Michael McCarron he laid a hit on Liam Bichel. That's a lot of hockey player between those two guys. First of all, it's like 6'6" and 6'7". That's a lot of hockey player. But Bichel's skate came up high, caught McCarron on the side of the neck. Thankfully, he was okay. He missed the rest of the first period, but he came back for the second and third. Net guards should be required in the NHL. Thank you very much. But I think that after that happened and McCarron missed the rest of the first period, they had to do a little bit of shuffling. Colton Sissons had been on the fourth line, or on the second line rather. He had to also kind of double shift with the fourth line with McCarron out. And so again, got Mr. Potato Head. You can put him anywhere and he's going to be great. But I think that, after McCarron came back and then you saw a little bit more shuffling and you put LaRue up there, I think it was really good. But I will also say and we talked about this before the game, and I was not mad about the decision to start LaRue on the fourth line for that game, because the last game against Calgary, his whole line, Svechkov, Parsonen, LaRue, which, by the way, 2 of those 3 were healthy scratched for the Dallas game. But LaRue stayed in the lineup, but he was moved down. They were the second line. He was moved down to the fourth line. I actually thought that was a good decision. I thought that was a good way to handle the situation for Andrew Brunette, because, again, not a good game by that line at all.
Very rough.
Not a good game against Calgary.
Yeah.
But I think, LaRue is a guy, you don't take him out of the lineup, but you start him down lower in the lineup, maybe just reduce his ice time, limit his ice time a little bit. And then as he, starts to show improvement, you move him back up. And so I really was not mad about the decision to sort of quote unquote demote him to the fourth line. I think that was a good decision by Andrew Brunette. And yeah, he definitely looks really strong. I also will say I really like the I would venture to guess that Steven Stamkos has locked up the 1C spot for the foreseeable future now, because obviously he slid into that spot out of necessity when O'Reilly was out with the injury, but then O'Reilly comes back, and that top line of Forsberg, Stamkos, Marchessault has been so impressive over these last couple games that when I'm really glad that they chose not to break that lineup, that they brought Ryan O'Reilly back, put him at 2C with Nyquist, and I really like that. Stamkos 1, O'Reilly 2. I mean, is it going to be a long-term solution in the grand scheme of things? No, because, they're only for like the next couple of years. They still need that young talent at center to develop. But this kind of, it's encouraging to see what this looks like now. I've always said this. I've always thought that Ryan O'Reilly is a perfect 2C. So everyone was always talking about like, oh, the Predators need a 2C. They need a 2C. And I'm like, no, they have one. What they need is a 1C.
Right.
And I think that's, again, it's been really, really good, really impressive. Kind of makes you wonder why they didn't try that earlier. But again, we're not looking to the past. We are focused on the present right now, because this is the first time we've gotten to do a happy show in 84 years. So
in 84 years, we're focused on the present, but we do have to look to the future. The Nashville Predators, if you're wanting to continue momentum, they're going to have to do it against a really tough team, the Colorado Avalanche, Saturday night in Colorado. Look, here's what we know about Colorado. Their Achilles heel has been goaltending. Not anymore, my friends. We'd like to introduce you to Scott Wedgwood. who has a shutout since being traded to Colorado.
We believe you've met before.
Yes. We believe you've met him. Now, he did have a tough outing last night against Utah. The Avs lost 4-1. But look, you look at this, you look at any problem that Colorado has, and this is a roster full of guys who can solve problems. You know, Nathan McKinnon, Arturi Lincoln, and Val Nichushkin is back into the lineup. So this is going to be a big challenge for the Nashville Predators Saturday night. But look, if they can somehow capture what they did against Dallas and take it to Denver, they can compete. They can compete. I think it's unlikely, highly unlikely we will see Roman Josi. So I think you're looking at a very similar situation. My guess is, of course, we'll see Saros back in net, which will help. But again, shout out to Juice Deuce, as they were promoting on the podcast. And one of our insiders, we were chatting about it. And I'm like, 100%, this big juice, little juice does not work for me. Juice Deuce was fabulous against Dallas, but we will see the OG Juice likely in Colorado. You know, we'll be back Monday. We're going to talk about what we see in Colorado. Can the Nashville Predators build on this Dallas win against another really tough Central Division rival? Let's see what happens on Saturday night. You know, Emma and I will be back to recap all of that on Monday's show as well. Before we sign off today, Emma, where can everyone find you and your work?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. Friends, that is going to do it for a Friday after a Predators win against the Dallas Stars. I hope that you all walk through this Friday with the joy of Zachary Leroux post game. I know Emma and I are going to do that, and we will be back on Monday to talk about this weekend's game against Colorado. We'll see you then.